pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any known changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comments number 1. And if we can put the policy up on the screen, and we'll open it to in-person people first, and see if there's anybody online who would like to speak. Anybody in person want to speak? Anybody online at this point to speak? Okay, we will have a second session for public comments later. All right. Next on the agenda, we should put it up on the screen. Okay. So then our next item is the superintendent's report.
All right, so some of this is going to be repetitious for the committee that just met a little while ago, but that's good. You can answer any questions that might arise. So we are going to talk a little bit about the track construction, window project, flooring project. So there's some facilities work that's been going on this summer. I see that House Bill 1300 is on a later part of the discussion, but we'll introduce that conversation here, and then also just talk to you about a few things that are going on in the summertime for planning and preparation for the school year coming up around professional learning communities, curriculum development, and the MTSSB work that we've been doing. All three of these things that we've been working on for years. So this is just a reminder that we tore up the track. And then, once it was torn up, there was some repaving. Now, some of that repaving meant that they needed to do some grading changes. And so if you were to look underneath the final product, you'd see that there are some areas that have been raised up higher than other areas, just to make sure that it was all level and what we needed to, but they did a great job, and we did this on time so that we would get, this is the surface that people will be running on right here, or walking, whatever the community or the teams use. And we also, when I say teams, not just our own team, we also have a memorandum of agreement with Franklin Pierce University. We share resources. We use some of their materials, not usually as much about materials anymore, but more with their spaces and their bubble during the early springtime and winter time. And then they utilize our track as well, as they don't have one over there. And then the final product, it's all lined, all numbered. We have the Conan Orioles written across it. There's you can see a little bit in that middle one, the orange. We didn't have orange before, but orange and black are the colors. And so the individual who was doing the painting was able to mix the yellow and the red that he had, and got the orange. So that was exciting. So people can use that, and I believe have been doing so. I did not go down there today, but it was done last Thursday. So on Friday, the 17th, when we said it was going to be open, it was open. There's still some fence work that has to be completed. JGS window replacement. If you've gone by Jaffrey Grade School in the past week or two, you would have seen that there was something going on. And this is when all the windows on that front area on the bottom part of the building on the first floor had been removed. So that's just, there's no windows there, right, in these pictures. And you can see perhaps on that second to the right, or from the right, I should say, that there was definitely some rot and some deterioration of even the there was concrete there, actually, it's kind of grooved right there, so they've had to do some fixing and plugging up in those areas right there, but that's those new Pella windows put in. This is still before it's all kind of framed in and finished off, but you can see what those windows look like. They're great windows. We're very excited to have those, and a good choice. And it's nice that we have done the bottom part, because as we look to create that multi-year window replacement cycle in the district, which is going to really start with the elementary schools and finishing those off before we get to the middle high school, we have an understanding of what these windows cost. We chose the most needy of locations in both of the elementary schools, so that we would deal with the rot that we hypothesized might exist, not as bad as it could have been. We have had a change order for about $1,000 so far, which is far less than what we had anticipated, at least at this school, seeing as, you know, some of the handles of the old windows actually just broke off when we tried to open them. So we figured that there was going to be a little more rot there. But they've done a nice job. They've been working on that. I know that they anticipate having all the windows at both schools done prior to August. So there's going to be some painting done in one of the rooms at Jaffrey Grade School now that everything was removed off the walls, while several rooms would benefit from some paint. One room needs a little bit more than paint, and so there's going to be some plastering and or is it mudding of the walls and making sure that that's all situated, and then it's going to be painted. So yes.
In that picture, all the way to the right, it shows one of the old heat registers.
Yes. I don't think it's in use.
So it's just one that wasn't
I think
taken
it's
out.
one that wasn't taken out, yep.
Okay.
And this is over at Rindge Memorial School, a couple of their rooms. I think there's one more window that is not on here, but that is the example of the window that the windows have gone in over. At Jaffrey Grade School, we talked about some flooring. On Wednesday, I'll meet with the flooring specialist to talk about the first floor of the Jaffrey Grade School, because there's a little more to consider before doing that one, because we want to do it right and not have some of the problems that we have been having with that floor. This is a classroom upstairs in the second floor, and last year we went through and actually we had covered the entire surface with a variety of kind of carpets, so that the peeling up or trip hazards that were there, that kids were able to walk around the room and not trip. But we've taken that carpet tile, which was not good, out of there and replaced it with this. Should be a lot easier to clean. Obviously, it looks nicer as well. This flooring right here is actually referred to as Hoot, H-O-O-T, which is neat because they are the JGS Owls. So, and then
Is that the color?
that is the color right there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the style, I guess you could say, kind of a wood theme. And so it matches a little bit better the facility itself, and I think closer to what the original floors actually probably looked like when they were first done. And these are two other areas that had them. There's a wall between these two spaces, so if that wall did not exist, and at one time it didn't exist, it would have been a full classroom. So basically the equivalent of 2 classrooms we had done. Any questions before going any further onto a topic that's going to be a little denser in conversation?
That's great.
Just one note that Ruben had said he's going to look into grants for windows.
Yes, windows. So the question was asked in our last committee meeting whether we were going to look for grants, possibility for the windows, as that can be, they do come up every once in a while, and so we have been able to, we do have all of our Homeland Security audits done, and we in all of the schools, and sometimes that is a requirement for any facilities grants within the state of New Hampshire anyway. And also, because we've started to do some of this work, we have information that we can use for the grant writing purposes, and also, again, because of other work that the district has done with the HVAC systems in all the schools, we are a district that is reflective of not trying to allow things just to go completely and then ask for money to fix it. We've been trying to upkeep, which is important when you're going for these grants. They want to see that the district actually has tried to take care of things along the way. So we will continue to go forward. Thank you for bringing that up. And when we think about grants, we think about money. And so there's just, we go from one topic to the next topic in this state. It seems almost rapid fire. There's just so much change that continues to take place. And what I'm going to briefly share here, and I know that we're going to talk about it a little bit later, is...
And we can actually talk about the whole thing now, because I know you have company here to help with...
Oh, sure, yeah,
So
I've asked Carrie to...
Right, so it's, as both yours and a discussion item, I don't think we need to change the agenda or anything.
Oh, okay,
Let's do
then we
this.
can go do it a little bit,
Yeah,
you know, a
and
little
then
bit deeper
Carrie's gonna need
than
to
the
finish
overview.
stuff.
Okay. Well, and we use the same source, right? So everyone, both of our attorney firms that we work with, don't know exactly all the implications. And so when you go to various sources, you will read some differences or some opinions that are out there. Reaching higher seemed to be the best resource. It seemed to be the one that was not as, it wasn't partisan politics, and so was trying to give you exactly what it was, as much as it can tell you. Now, there's some other elements to this, some language that is a little uncertain, that our attorney is looking at, and will say that this House bill, as it indicates, we are going to have a vote, basically, the ability to vote on the ballot in November to see whether we want to, as Jaffrey and Ringe, implement a school district tax cap. There's some language around some of this bill that they're looking into right now to see if there's going to be any litigation. Our attorney indicated that it's possible that school districts may be looking to join efforts to push back on some of this. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that in the majority of locations, maybe, you know, I believe the majority of locations across the state that have done something like this had some sort of language like a tax cap on their ballots, on their warrants, I should say. They've been voted down quite, and so the fact that now the state's saying, no, we're going to put this back on there, has not pleased, I think, a lot of individuals. It's like, no, we've already said we don't want this, now you're forcing this to go, you know, on there. But not every town has had the tax cap on it, and hasn't gone forward in at least its purest form. And so I think that for now, we have to plan for this going on the ballot in November of 2026, which is coming up, and right in the middle of our budget season. Now, in order to pass this, meaning if this district is going to decide to go with a tax cap, 60% of its voting population that comes out is going to need to say, yes, we want this. So it's not 60% of Ringe or 60% of Jaffrey, it's the total vote that comes out. If it doesn't reach that threshold, then that's not something we're going to be concerned about this go around anyway. It will, I believe, go on again in 2 years. And then later on, I have some language in here that says that we don't know what's going to happen after 2032. But I assume the legislature will act on something else at another time. Additionally, this coincides with what has already been changed, is that the school administrative unit, the SAU budget, and the school district budget is going to have to be on two separate warrant articles. This talks about the fact that the SAU budget is going to need to be no more than 6% of the total school district's appropriations. That doesn't just mean the budget that we put forward when we say this is our proposed budget. This is warrant article usually number 2, I believe. It means, it has more to do with our adopted budget. So all of the warrant articles that get passed that are brought together. So it's important to know that that's the case, and also that that's going to, that we're talking about a budget cap to all of that coming together. So we're going to have to consider what it is we want to do within, for instance, funding trust funds. Like here, we just saw a short presentation on windows and things of that nature that need to be fixed, and we need to be on a cycle to continue to keep things moving in this district, just because it's the responsible thing to do. But that does cost money, so where are you going to get that money from? One, Jared rightly said, we got to look for grant opportunities, so other forms of revenue. Two, you can use your trust funds, but those trust funds have to be funded. So how will those be funded is going to be a conversation, which is a conversation we have almost every year, and we've had differences of opinions. I think there will probably be fewer differences of opinions of how that will go forward because of if this were to pass, the tax cap. And then also you have the choice, I think, goodness, years ago, I think it was 2015, 2016, we tried to convince the board to put the facilities needs in the budget right off the bat. It was better to keep that in there and do that. That was not how it was viewed, and that's fine. A lot of places don't do that. But if that's still going to be the case, and I think that if we had a tax cap, it would be harder to put money into that year in and year out for big items or medium-sized items. You're going to want to definitely focus on those trust funds. And so are you going to write your warrant articles as raise and appropriate funds for the trust fund, which I think we did this past year? Or did we? Or did we fund it? We did one and not the other. That's right. And or are we going to say we're going to fund this out of any money that's left over that year? And that's when we have that big debate about, it says on the warrant, 0 tax impact, but then it really is a tax impact because you're not using it to offset the taxes and all this kind of stuff. But it's going to be an important conversation. I don't have a lot of information about this. I highlighted that if it did pass in November, that there may be another opportunity, I think on March, to undo it, but the voters who would have to also pass that if they felt they made a mistake, at a 60% rate. So.
Did you say at a 60% rate or a 50% rate?
3 out of 5. Yep, so 60%.
Oh, okay, right there.
Yep,
Right.
it's got to be 60-40 or more than that. So the implications, right? So the implementation, if a majority of voters in towns, this is again from Reaching Higher, New Hampshire, if a majority of voters in towns served by a school district approve the tax cap, school district taxes in that district cannot rise more than the cost of inflation. However, calculating the net new taxable property growth may be challenging for many municipalities. So there is a formula that we would have to go by and figure out what the likely impact is going to be and use that within our budgeting process. You'll probably have questions about that. That's why I asked Carrie to come, and she can do the best she can with the information she has so far to discuss some of these elements. The SAU administrative spending cap, if we were to, for instance, just to give you kind of a round understanding, like if we were to say, all right, 6%, the SAU. Right now, the SAU budget, with the definition that they use for SAU, what would go into an SAU budget, which still needs to be determined whether that's really what is meant. We don't know. We're assuming, because it says no special education in that budget, so if that's the case, and we put that aside, and it's not food service, and it's not transportation, and it's not facilities, then it's just the administrative runnings, like the business office, HR, technology, superintendent, and so forth, curriculum. Those areas right there, we are about the 6% of the entire budget. So we're operating at that level right now. So that will be another conversation about what is going to make up that number. How do we want to staff for sustainability if we have that type of budget cap, or if not, either way. Things to consider. I think the bottom one there is the duration of the tax cap. So, and also not just the duration, but when this would impact our work here. So the bill specifies that if adopted in 2026, which would be this November, that the cap would be applicable beginning to the fiscal year 2028. Now, just because this is November 2026, we are actually in the 27 fiscal year, the 2027 fiscal year. So that means next fiscal year. What we're budgeting for this year would be impacted by this if this were to go through. And then this is what I talked about earlier. The legislation does not clearly define the duration of the cap beyond 2032. So there's, could be some different changes. I mean, we seem to like to do that. It just makes some adjustments and changes. I do think that there's likely going to be some changes made at some point, whether it's forced or whether it's just people realizing, oh, we've just had some confusion about language. I think that there, at the very least, next year there will be some language changes to make sure that people understand and that what the bill is, or what the law, is, and that they're to take away any ambiguity that might exist. I'll do this real fast, and we can go back, because I'm sure we're going to talk about the House bill a little bit. This is just the picture on the right is a book that we had purchased for a large number of individuals in this district, I'd say about 4 to 5 years ago, when we started to focus very heavily on improving our professional learning communities. And there are very specific approaches, processes, belief systems that need to take place in order to get the best out of these professional learning communities, which are research-based practices, really, or leadership mechanisms that allow districts or enable districts to go forward and improve their student outcomes, as well as cultural outcomes as well. And so professional learning communities is what helps us drive everything else, because it gets everyone involved, and when everyone's involved, the work is, I can't say easier, but it's more manageable to do with more hands, in a sense, and more minds, and more people invested in what's going on. Curriculum planning, we have some days. You can see that those 3 days up there are planned for professional learning community work. One of them we've already had a planning session. August 11th and August 12th, we'll be going over the year-long plans for those as well. And so tomorrow I go to the Department of Education for an MTSSB update and more professional development on the grant, the implications of the grant that we have for this, and also the work and the goal setting that we need to do for the course of this year. And I'll be going with David Dustin and Kim Baker, both who are working district-wide this year in a capacity of curriculum or the support MTSSB, but also they have roles right here in this building. Any questions or just conversation that you'd like to have around any of this, and certainly the House bill, as we are. I'll just say one more thing. We started, two of you were here earlier with myself and a couple other individuals as we started the JREA negotiations today. It was planning day, getting your calendars aligned and all of that kind of stuff. We have 7 dates that are planned out, hoping to be able to use just 6 of them, but we have 7 just in case. And 2 of those dates are after this November 3rd vote, and this vote is going to impact our negotiations, one way or the other. Yeah. So.
All right, who would like to begin? Judy?
I've also been reading about House Bill 1563, where they're going to change the way they fund special ed. And I guess it doesn't take effect until 2027, but will that help our district a lot to balance our budget? You know, if something like this happens, or help at all?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'll have to research and find out more about that. I have not had my briefing on House Bill 1560. Did that pass?
It looks like it from what I can see. Wait a minute, let me look. Yeah, Kelly Ayotte signed House Bill 1563 into law, broadening state special education aid eligibility and allowing districts to seek partial state reimbursement for a new tier of high-cost services. So I guess they're going to change the way they do the funding and supposedly give us more money for our special ed programs.
Well, I'd have to read the bill more carefully, but what it sounds like is that it's talking about providing more support for the high expense situations, not necessarily your day-to-day operations within the school district. Is that how you read it?
Well, it sounds like, I don't want to. It says Tier 1, districts pay all costs up to 2.5 times the state cost per
Yeah.
pupil. Tier 2, state reimburses 85% of the cost between
85, okay,
yeah,
that would
2.5
be higher.
and 3.5 times the state cost per
Mhm.
pupil. Tier 3, the state reimburses 20% of the costs between 3.5 and 10 times the state cost per pupil. And the last tier, Tier 4, state reimburses 10% of the costs above 10 times the state cost per pupil.
So that's talking about our out-of-district placements, I think, for the most part.
It's your former
It's-
CAF aide.
It's our,
What was CAF
what
aide?
used to be called catastrophic aid, so again, I'd have to look at the details a little bit more, but it sounds like if it's going to be a positive situation for the district, then it would be by adding more revenue into what we'd get back from those higher expense situations, which don't really encapsulate much of what we do here. It would be where we, if we send our learners elsewhere, maybe part of the transportation costs as well, because anytime we have a day placement or a placement that is full-time, residential, that's when the residential, that's when it's going to be costing, multiple times the average rate.
Okay. Thank you.
So it could help.
Okay.
It could help. I don't think it would offset,
Okay.
but maybe, if it's 5% here, 10% more here and there, of those numbers, 50, you know, you could, maybe you get another 100,000 out of that
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, thank you.
with the number of people we have.
Is there any way to, does this mean, does HB 1300 mean we're going to, like, already the budget season started, like,
Mhm.
trying to look at things for what we need for the future? Does this mean we're gonna, come September, October, have to have two budgets?
We talked about that in our committee meeting. That's one option. Another option is to create your budget so that you have your worst-case scenario. I don't think you go in with the illusion that none of this is going to take place and then have to go backwards. That's a communication challenge. I also think that, I mean, the board could take a couple different paths, and I'll explain. One, you could go and say, all right, listen, if our main goal is to make sure that our budget is as fiscally tight as possible, maybe the approach is to do our best to, you know, predict what's going to happen, make sure all our warrants are written a certain way so that if this were to pass in November, that we're good to go. Another avenue is to say, well, if we do that, we're finding that it's not really, potentially not helping us reach our goals, or is going against maybe what we may personally believe or what we believe as a board. And so we're going to put forth another budget that we think is better for the running of the school district. And then you have two thoughts or two bits of information, or buckets, I should say, of information, talking points that people can weigh when going to the ballot in November.
Is there a way of saying, Carrie, if this had actually passed last year as this is written, we had different things for our warrant articles, but if this passed and we had to do this for this budget, knowing the numbers that we have right now, what kind of actual money difference is there? So the operating budget we have right now is 33 million, 30 million? 32, something like that? Okay. You're in that range.
32.5, is it?
Something like that. So is there a way of just giving a ballpark of what, if we had a tax cap, what that would have looked like? What the numbers that we'd be working with now would be looking like?
Well, it's based on,
Do we have do we have a microphone for the audience so that those who are online can hear what Carrie has to say?
Yeah. We have our finance director with us today.
thank you. So it's based on the assessments to the towns. You have to look at what the assessments were, not so much your budget. So you're looking at what's assessed. So you have to consider revenues too, because if your revenues go down and that causes your assessments to go higher than the cap, then you have to reduce your expenses. So there's more than just the budget at play. So I think we're going to have to watch revenues really closely and see what those estimates come in at to determine where we are from comparing our prior year's assessment. Now, we're operating on a default budget this year too, so that's lower than our overall budget would have been, so our assessments,
And we
I don't know if
think
this makes sense.
It does, and how convoluted
Yeah,
this is.
it is, yeah.
going to be, because we don't get those assessments till like November, right?
Well, the tricky part is that we estimate our revenues when we do the budget, and we don't finalize the revenues until the fall. That's when DRA does their tax rate settings. And a lot of times what we're getting for special aid doesn't always come out to what in the past what it's supposed to be. So you're estimating those revenues conservatively. And if you don't get the revenues you expect after doing all of this and you've stayed within what you thought the cap was going to be, if your revenues come in less, when you finalize the revenues, you then have to decrease your expenses because it will be disallowed because your assessments will be too high.
Easy enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the frustrating things about this, besides the vagaries, and the fact that the state is yet again saying, school districts, you don't have any say in what you're doing. It's very frustrating that we keep losing local control. But I was talking with a school board member from a town that does have a budget cap, and they said, the reason this is being done legislatively, the legislators are saying, well, the town meetings are, not that many people come out, but at a gubernatorial election, lots of people come out. Well, not as much as a presidential, but more than a town election shows, surely. So they want more people voting for this. But what ended up happening at this particular school district is each year they have to go into special meetings to try to fund their programs, to try to fund their, so you're literally taking, yes, you have lots of people voting for this, but then you have these special meetings with a tiny amount of people making these fiscal decisions. And it's just like, it's just not, like this isn't practical. Like this isn't this isn't reality. You still have to keep the heat on. So you're having a special meeting to say, can we afford more propane? Great. This was irresponsible, is what this is. It's just irresponsible. Yeah. Does anybody else have questions?
Carrie, I'd like to know your thoughts on, I feel like I've read this so many times and I don't understand what would happen to the JREA contract, which we are negotiating. What would happen to a new contract, in your opinion, if the tax cap passes?
While she's thinking about that, I think part of it is that we have to negotiate with the understanding that it could pass.
Yep.
And so any language that ties, any language that's tied to, certain salary adjustments or whatever, might have to, we say if this takes place, then this is how it goes. And that said, I think that by the time we get to the time when we get to the decision making as a board of whether to agree on a contract with the association, to put that forward to the voters, that we will know whether this is going to take place or not. And so that if you have a tax cap, it could impact how much you have for raises. Do you maybe even differently than what or behaving differently than what we've done in the past? Maybe. We're looking at percent increases as opposed to, which we do percent increases, but we tend to like to keep things on a dollar amount, making it nice and clean and understandable for all involved. But I have seen some other districts that have language around, CPI or other sorts of things. Like for instance, like even in one of our contracts, a JRSSA contract, there is a paragraph or two about some special situations where while the group is getting X, Y, and Z, another group of people get like a 3% annual, increase. So we might have to look at things differently, how we go about funding. We're gonna have to be careful,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be important to do the calculation first, to compare the assessment and what the formula, where it puts us at, to determine what room we have. And it's, because it's going to compare it from this fiscal year's assessments to what we can increase for next year. So we're going to need to do that formula. And I can pull the consumer price index because it's defined in the law as being the prior year, the March of the prior year. So I can't wait until this March to develop it, so it has to be from the period of March 2025 to March 2026, because it's a 12-month window. So I've got to pull the consumer price index for inflation for that period, so I can pull that. But it's knowing the property tax growth, which I won't have that, and I don't know, I need to find out when that would be available to me, because that needs to be included in the formula to see where our assessments, how high we can go with our assessments. And then I think it's kind of working backwards from there.
The other thing is, what date will you use the property assessments on? What date are they saying you've got to use that? Is it last year? Is that last March too, or is it yesterday?
I think it's what this year's assessments are. So I think it will be, actually, that's a good question, because I wasn't
It doesn't say?
thinking about that at first. But it would be when we finalize the revenues this year, because I believe it's the prior year, which is this year, and we haven't finalized the revenues yet this year.
Okay.
But I would want to make sure I confirm everything in the formula before we use it.
I had a question. The question I have is on the SAU, well, that's a 6%. I know you mentioned that we're running fairly close to that number. So is that come in as a different, like almost like a ballot question or whatever, so it's a separate?
Separate warrant article. Yep,
Separate
so it'll
warrant
be
article.
probably warrant article 3, or, well, it
So-
depends which one
We would have
the
to find
contract
out
has
from
to be. It
legal.
might be 3 or 4, one of those.
Hypothetically, let's just say it comes in and, we'll say $2 million. I'm just making up a
Yep,
number.
yep.
Does the towns vote on that as far as whether they agree with it or disagree with it, or, as a separate
We
warrant?
would vote as a
article? How's that
separate
work?
warrant article, and if it were to not pass, we would have to have the same, as current year, is that correct?
Well, legal counsel believes there's language that allows for certain increases, but it's confusing according to him. So we would have to really work it out with him on what allowable increases would be, if there's going to be a separate default type of budget built within that or not. He's still working on that.
Yeah. We did ask that question.
If the budget comes in lower than the 6%, there's still an option for people to vote yea or nay, or how does that work?
They will vote yea or nay on whatever is put forward. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, they can't not fund a group or something, but has to, get to operate. But there will be 2 different votes.
Carrie, if we just look at the first tax cap question, or Ruben or whoever, can you sort of think, how is it going to operate different than a default budget? Just so that we can explain that. Like, is the tax cap for 2 years, a default budget is for 1 year, like things like that?
I don't have the answer to that right now. Sorry.
That's fine, I know.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, default is for 1 year. But, yeah, I talked about this question as well. I'm not sure, like, for instance, if,
I would think the tax cap would be for 2 years, because then it will be voted on again in November of '28.
Mhm.
So I would think the tax cap will carry over till the revote on November of 2028.
But I mean, I guess what I'm, like, unfortunately, we are well adapted to working under a default budget. So I'm just wondering how this tax cap would feel differently.
that's what I took your question as.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the fact, like, yeah, your default budget could actually be more in a sense
Yeah.
than,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah. I think it's likely that at some point anyway, that will become the reality. But then, if you were to get your default budget and that were higher,
And your proposed would have to be lower.
You'd have-
to meet that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in my favor, that makes sense.
Mhm.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? This is the first of many, I'm sure, that we'll be talking about this. More to come.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ruben, for the report, and especially the pictures of JGS and the track. That was very nice to see. All right, we have a consent agenda with a number of manifests finishing out the school year. Payroll, we have a budget transfer, contracted services. We have some appointments, many more than resignations, which is lovely. And we have a stipend list. So, any discussion on the consent agenda?
I guess I just want to make the comment, the fact that we have so many, we lost some amazing educators this year, and it is amazing and a true testament to what happens in this district that so many new people are interested in working here, even though we've had problems with our budget for 3 out of 5 years, I think. So it's a true testament to the quality of work that happens in this district.
We'll take a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Christine. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sandra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes 6-0-0. We have the minutes from the June 15th and the July 6th meeting. Take a look, make sure that you were all here. I believe you guys were all here for them. All right. I think we can do these together. Everybody was here, right? Yeah, okay. So we'll make the motion, take a motion to approve the minutes for both of those meetings.
I'll move that we accept the minutes for June 15th and July 6th as printed.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jared. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That's a 6-0-0. We just had the discussion item. Thank you guys for that, and thank you, Carrie, for joining us for that very much. Action items. The Arthur Daniels Fund is a longstanding fund that we have. If you would mind telling us more about, each summer we expend some of the funds for an education-related items, so.
In this case, more expensive than I would have thought, but something that we had not budgeted for necessarily, or or would like to use funds in a different way, but we have this ability through the Arthur Daniels Fund, and these are allowable costs, to replace the soccer goals and nets, and then the wheels that go on them so that they can be transported, so we can, change what type of goals we have and where they are.
One thing that I love about this fund, I kind of look forward to seeing what is going to be looked at for each year, because when I worked here, I worked in the library, and we were the recipients one year, and I just remember it, and he said, the goal of this fund is to do something that will directly impact students, like this is directly going to be going to, so that they can absolutely have an impact. This isn't going to paper and pens, which is great, but I just love, each year it's creative, is what I think, and so this is great for me. Okay. All right, we'll take a motion to accept or to approve this expenditure from the Arthur Daniels Fund.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll
Christine.
second it.
Thank you. That was Dan? Yes, you seconded?
Yep.
Great, thank you, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? 600. All right, we have requests to waive facility fees for youth karate in the RMS gym, and we don't have, what are the dates on those? I didn't look at them. All right, from September to October. September to October. I am going to ask the board to hold on to this request because we're still in the process of setting up a meeting. Just, I think, yesterday I got the final person agreeing to a time frame, and so within the next 2 weeks, we should be having a meeting with groups to talk about the policy KFR, uses of facilities. We definitely want to get on that to make sure fall programming is set, but more and more questions keep coming up, and so we want to have a group meeting on this. And I do have a question for the board on this. So let me just ask it now. Throughout multiple different meetings that have been happening and conversations happening, and again, you know that I have been part of the policy on this and talking with the towns about this for the last 5 years. One thing that the board is truly concerned about is security, and that's something that that we cannot be complacent about, and that's too important to not adjust the policy for. And so one suggestion that came out by somebody is to so our custodians can't be also the monitors for groups. They can't be always watching the doors. They have a specific job, right? And so what we wondered was if during the school days, currently the policy is capped at 9 p.m. That's when the last group needs to have lights out. School days, that makes sense. We don't have weekend custodians at any of the schools. And while yes, maybe we could hire somebody, hiring custodians hasn't been that easy. And do we want to do that for community groups? Because it wouldn't be us using it. And so one suggestion was to charge fees for all community groups on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, not during the regular time. And whether that means charging a fee to make sure it's done, or more likely saying you have to give us in the registration documentation the name and phone number, cell number of the person who's going to be monitoring on the weekends. And something that also came up is making sure that they have a CPR AED certified person on site during any of those events. And so that's, before we had this meeting, I actually wanted to bring that idea to the board before I bring it to like the community groups. I wanted to see the board's temperature on that kind of a suggestion, where we edit the application process so that in addition to what they're already agreeing to, which is in policy KFR, that they're also agreeing to put the action, like right now, it's a vague, right now what it says is vaguely, a representative of your group has to be on site at all times. And it also says that no minors can ever be unattended. There has to be one adult per at least 15 kids with minors at all times. Our understanding is that there are groups coming in and there's minors all over the hallways and the cafeteria, and they're not monitored. And so already the policy's frustrating because it's not being followed. And there's frustration on both sides, all sides. So I guess what I'm saying is if we clean up the weekend conversations and say you have to not, so we wouldn't be, so let's say with the adult pickup basketball. What that would look like is not saying you're going to be charged for that, but you have to put the name and the phone number of the person responsible for making sure no door is ever propped open, making sure every light is off, making sure that every window is closed and locked, making sure that there are no kids unmonitored. Who is the person we have their phone number, who is going to be right there?
Wouldn't that be the person that requested the waiver?
No, actually no, because usually the waivers are requested by the rec department director, but the rec department director is not the person monitoring everything. And so, like, you think about how many keys go out, that's because the rec department director is not there all the time. Like, there's keys and fobs moving all over the place, hopefully reasonably now, hopefully we have their names, we have who has them, but.
So you're saying add that information to this
Exactly.
form?
Exactly. So this is the person who is going to be fully responsible for making sure that no minors are unattended, everything is the way you found it, and that everything is secure. How does that, is that something that I can bring to the group?
It's a lot of responsibility, but I do think someone should,
I guess
sign
I'd
up
rather
for
give it to them than a
Yeah.
custodian.
Right, yeah.
Someone should be
Exactly.
responsible.
Yeah, someone should be responsible, and it should, yeah, I think.
I know we didn't discuss the youth karate, but I thought we actually voted on the adult pickup basketball thing.
This is for September?
So this is month by month.
No, but more season by season.
Yeah. Time frame by time frame,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
whatever's requested.
So I think this is a great idea. Once upon a time, I believe pre-COVID, actually, Jaffrey Rec Department, who used to run the youth karate, at least the JGS youth karate, for a while, they actually sent one of their employees to youth karate because they realized that this was now their program, and they needed to make sure that somebody was there with first aid and CPR, that they shouldn't have a program and not have a staff person there. Now that, I believe, completely went away during COVID and everything else. But I think the idea of having someone who's responsible, a point person who's on site, not just the person filing the paperwork, but an on-site person. And that person could even just be the one who communicates to the school, hey, a light bulb broke during basketball practice, want to give you the heads up. Whatever would happen. They could be the person who communicates that, because I don't know how that would happen now. So I am in favor of having that discussion. It might be the only way that we could ever make JGS available anyways, to make sure that there's somebody actually watching.
And JGS is the gym that's most readily available, if it can be safe. monitored.
Lisa, you're suggesting we revisit this next meeting? Is that what you're?
Oh, we'll be revisiting it every meeting, honestly.
No, I know, but I
think
mean,
we'll
instead of
revisit
voting,
it
instead of
until we-
voting to waive these fees right now,
Oh, yeah.
hold off,
Yeah,
let the policy committee talk, we can think about it and revisit these.
yeah. And there'll be more edits to bring before you guys. But this is one before I went to them and talked. I needed to talk with you guys.
And these are set for September, like you said, both of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not.
Not immediate.
Temperatures, thumbs up, thumbs down, have fun. It's not a vote, I just want to get a temperature. This is something that I can go before them with. Okay, 2 thumbs up, there.
I'm okay with it.
Dan?
Yeah, I know, I think, we could push it off and figure it out. I hate to push people out and make it more and more difficult, but, if we gotta discuss and go over some stuff and do it, but I'm actually for these waivers to happen, but, and I do know we have to follow certain regulations. I thought the second one was a done deal, and we had that one that was already done, but I didn't realize it was only for a short time. So how often do you gotta do September, then you gotta do October, and then you gotta do November, or how do you
Or they do
that?
quarters
I
per
don't-
season or
yeah.
something, yeah.
Yeah, my understanding is they want some of these to just run the whole time, but yeah, it's because of, in the policy, I think it's 40 days that they have a cap because of our scheduling. So our scheduling has to take priority, and that's going to be a really complicated piece of this because we schedule every space. We have heavy scheduling.
I mean,
And I'm in the process of putting together, based upon the policy with all the language that's in there, a procedure, and based upon some feedback that the board has talked about. But, and I'll bring that procedure to either that conversation or I'll show it to you first, certainly the policy, before having conversations about it. But just so that we know we're all on the same page, and also for the purposes of clarity.
Like, do we have any idea how long the youth karate is, how many kids get involved? I don't know any of that.
The first event date is September 2nd to October 28th is the last event date on his application.
It basically runs until, I think,
So
April.
two full months.
Just like this one, for the basketball, it's, the first event date is September 6th, and then it goes until October 25th, because as Lisa explained, they can only do 40 days at a time. And then they'll resubmit, just like youth karate.
So you
will
gotta
submit.
reapprove it every 40 days,
Yeah,
which is kind of a real pain in the, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
something
it's
like
kind
that.
of
It might be,
ridiculous.
it might be spring, like it might be in some cases a seasonal thing, but I think the policy right now says you can do it 40 days out simply because of our own scheduling of timing. We don't have the dates for our drama programs right now.
But it just adds a lot of extra work for us to keep approving it or not approving it or going through this too, so every 40 days, I mean, well, you can have, maybe next time you won't, and I don't, it's kind of, I don't know.
but you can see, like, for instance, youth karate is at the RMS gym, right?
Mhm.
After school, immediately after school, I think is when it starts. During basketball season, RMS gym is basketball central,
Right.
right? So if we approve it all the way out.
Oh, I know, I
then-
understand you have timelines for each item, but men's basketball is done on a Sunday night or whatever.
That one might be
So,
different.
if you're reapproving it every 40 days, it's like we gotta go through it. I mean, keep re-voting on it.
I really do think it comes down to the idea that we're not a community center. It just has to come down to that. Our charter is that we educate kids and that we provide for our students. We never have been you know, by default, we become a community center. But if we are out of money and we're trying to make our facilities last and we're trying to make our people last, we are not a community center.
Well, you know, when you're out of money, I mean, there's the other, we can pick on certain things, like what's it gonna really cost here versus, you know, is there other avenues to pick up, so, you know, it just comes down to different opinions of people. My opinion is, I think that they should be waived, but I'm only one vote.
And what I'm suggesting by this is that there would be no money, that there would be no fees. That is what I'm suggesting. But we need to focus on the security and make sure that we have a monitor and that we have people with CPR AED. And I'm not saying the monitor has to be that person, but let's make sure that these people are covered, that we have
Yep.
the security we need. So, you know, yes, the fiscal piece of it is part of it, but what I'm talking about actually isn't. I'm talking about we have to look at our spaces much more responsibly than we have been. Much more responsibly. So for the youth karate, that happens on Wednesdays. So, and it happens during, like, right after school. So this is not in effect for that. This is more for the weekend programming, which there really isn't that much. There's not that much, but the adult pickup basketball is one. So that's why I'm bringing it to you guys now. This was a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to gauge your temperature. And the majority of the board says, yep, that's something to talk with them about.
Yep.
Great, okay, thank you. All right, so then, yes, the next meeting that we have, and in our board matters, let's talk about our next work session, because I have a suggestion for that as well, but that will make it so that we can deal with this pretty quickly. Okay. All right, next on the action items is, so is the board okay with pausing this then for 2 weeks?
Hmm?
We'll pause it for 2 weeks. Board is okay? Thank you. Okay. All right. Little Orioles handbook update.
So you can choose to approve this tonight, or you can look at this as a first reading. It's often what we do with handbooks. I know you're going to get a load of handbooks very soon, before the next meeting, as they have just come in for all the schools, and so you will need time to look those over. But there are not a lot of changes within the Little Orioles handbook. We changed the tuition, and annually we've raised the tuition. This year we took a little bit of a different tact. One, in order to keep this program afloat for this year, and we do know that it's been a valuable program. It's been a program that has allowed us over the years to retain staff, and also provide our learners here with some meaningful opportunities to learn about roles that they may wish to pursue in the future in their own livelihood. What we did differently this time around was because we did need to cut down our expenses regardless of revenue, to make sure we hit our numbers right. And we also heard from the board to do the best we can to ensure that it's a completely paid-for program by the individuals who are utilizing it. We cut an entire full-time staff member out of this, so that was a 70 or 75, I think it was 74 and some change $1,000 reduction. And then simultaneously we increased the tuition, and so the tuition rates are now different. They used to all be the same for infants and for toddlers. Now the infants are more than you have to have a smaller ratio of adults to infants, and so there's a greater cost for infants if you have children who are in that age range. And so we've done the math. We based the budget off of 12 to 13 children. And then we have a couple part-time staff members, one full-time staff member, and we are relying upon volunteers from within the staff, the school organization, people who are in maybe a CTE program. We might do, we could employ part-time here and there to cover for other individuals. And also, we have a wide variety of individuals who are volunteering. And as I was talking to Sonia Traffy, who's the one in charge of the center this year, she was asking if we could, at least for those individuals that haven't had the Careers in Education 2 program, if we could make sure that they are in line with what you were talking about, CPR first aid certified, so that there's a greater number of them who can act at any point in time in a responsible way for the safety and well-being of certainly the kids in the center, but also their peers.
So is that something we could offer here?
Well, that's what, so I talked to her this morning, so we'd have to see what our nurses are able to do. They do some of the training, and they're certified trainers to do so. Sometimes we have other professional development where we have large groups of individuals who are being trained, and could they just join that? We just have to look at the schedules throughout the course of the year to be able to find out what we can do and when will be best. It can get expensive, but again, it's a small price to make sure that people are safe.
I'm looking over the handbook, you mentioned high school students. Is there any kind of certification or recognition the high school students will get for their time that they spend there? Is there any?
We've had some high school students use it as an extended learning opportunity and have had that as part of their graduation requirement around their senior capstone. So that's a couple of them actually that I'm aware of in the last year. And then some of them are in Careers in Education 2, and if they have had all of that and they're over 16 years of age, we have employed some of them, and they've been very helpful. For instance, we have, you know one of them well, but we have a learner who used to be right here, who worked for the center, and when she's on vacation from college, she comes back and helps us out. And some individuals help us like closing. While we have 3 adults who are the primary workers in the center, 2 part-time, 1 full-time. When adults have young children themselves, they have to, go and whether it be an emergency or go to appointments or what have you. So it's helpful to have some of these other individuals who can fill in, get some real experience. And so, if they don't have practice until say 5 o'clock, then there's a couple hours that they can work in the center during that time frame. And then there is no, that I'm aware of, any other formal recognition right now for volunteerism. Apart from, we have other groups like National Honor Society and Interact who do, not professional, but supportive community service. Thank you. They do community service within their local community, and certainly this would count as that.
What age group is the Little Oreos typically?
3 months to 5.
And there's a fee for it, but I'm assuming it doesn't cover the cost.
It's budgeted, it's always been budgeted so that it was cost neutral. There is a fee. This year, what I was just saying was in order to do our best to ensure that it is a break-even program without the use of, for instance, like one year I had $150,000 in a grant that I acquired. So we subsidized it with, I think, 60,000 of that.
So do
So
we-
this would be without subsidizing.
So we do or don't get subsidized by the state or whoever, or
We don't get subsidized by the state. So, like, for instance, I can give you the numbers. Like, we've budgeted our staffing at $95,000 to $97,000. We have done the math to get, and we created the fees to be, so that we would collect roughly 97, a little over actually $97,000, so it would be a break-even process.
and this is done where?
There's 2 rooms that they utilize right on the side of that cafeteria. I can show it to you after, actually, it wouldn't take that long.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious of,
Yep.
so it's a very young group, they come in and some of them can spend multiple days a week and some less. Or how does that work?
Yeah,
You pay
most-
per day. For a toddler, for a 5-day week is $725 a month. An infant for 5 days a week is $800 a month.
So,
And the purpose of it is actually for, what is it accomplishing? What,
well, the primary purpose is to provide the staff members here with the support for their family, to be able to continue to teach here and know that their children are being taken care of.
okay, so it's somewhat of a daycare is what we're saying in a sense.
It's a child care
Yeah.
center, yet we do some early learning. We focus a little bit more than,
Is that pretty common in all schools or?
nope.
No?
Okay. So we will take a motion to approve the Little Orioles handbook.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Christine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jared. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 700. All right,
6.
600, thank you. I see Wendy's eyes glaring at me too. Okay. All right, so we have a first reading of our spring policy updates. The vast majority of these are policies that we've updated very recently, and there are new federal changes that made small changes in these. And so the full policies are listed there. Please, please, please read these through. But what we're going to look at is the summaries, please. If you can open that, Ruben. The very first one is a policy that's actually a request by the business office here. They want us to look at the relevant policy timelines for IJOCR. And if you scroll down the summaries, you will see a brief notice about what each of these are. So keep scrolling down, Ruben.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So IJOCR is a request to change the timeline of renewals from the school year to end of year for volunteers. This is our volunteer policy and procedures. And so currently, volunteers are here for 1 year, 1 school year. And the business office has said, because of all of the background checks and paperwork, they're wondering if we could extend that through the end of September of the following school year, so that we can make sure that we have volunteers for the first month of school, which does come into pretty important activities that the kids wouldn't have access to those adults. So their recommendation is to just change the policy enough to say, instead of school year ending, that it would be the end of September following school year. So that's one, if you, honestly, if you guys are uncomfortable with it, let me know, but I would feel fine with us simply voting on that one tonight if you want, so they can enact that this July. I'll let you guys think about that, and I have if you look back on our agenda, IJOCR is down toward the bottom, and while I'm talking, if you wanted to open that up and take a look at that, you're welcome to. I will keep talking. The next policy, ACD, religious neutrality and religious accommodations, is a recommended policy, not a priority one. Usually we bring to you guys mostly the priority ones, but this one, our policy committee felt strongly that this is one that we wanted to have. We actually didn't really have this policy. This is new for us. And so for the New Hampshire School Board Association, this ACD policy has been replaced. This version is intended to reflect current interpretations of both the non-establishment and free exercise clauses of the First Amendment by the U.S. Supreme Court, the First Circuit Court of Appeals. Legal references are added. So now, it used to be an optional one, now it's recommended, and when we read it through, and I hope you guys read it through, please, before our next meeting, we felt that this had very positive implications for our school, just how we speak and how we kind of, I don't know, how do I say it? Gives us good language to be using. So we felt that this was an appropriate thing for our district. DAF, Administration of Federal Grants, is priority required by law. We of course have this. This new revision includes a new section relative, actually, this one was a crazy one. It is all priority required by law, but there are 9 different actual policies included in DAF. So I do recommend the business office look this one over. There's increases of thresholds, there's changes of timing. They added a new section relative to property lost, stolen, or damaged. There's minor corrections, but there's some language corrections. So this is one to definitely be looking at. It was, gobbledygook for me when I read through it. I don't live in this world, and so I hope that the business office can take a look at this, but it is priority. There's not much we can say about it. So I'd be curious to know if the business office comes back and has any different changes to it.
Semi-decennial, is that twice a decade? I mean, that's something I've never seen. It's in the small print.
Yep, it's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, and then DFA is about investments. It's again priority required by law and requires an annual review of the policy rather than merely periodic. Additionally, some investment vehicles approved and even required for school districts are not fully covered by the FDIC. So it's just, I think this one in particular was saying we want you guys to have a much closer eye on your investments and such, so. Fun to carry. EBCA, Crisis Prevention Emergency Response Plan. This is revised to include the definition of school property as required by revised Ed 306 with additional minor grammatical and formatting changes, and it's now priority required. EBCD, Emergency School and District Closings, is reflecting a very quick language change of distance learning to remote instruction. So that's literally the change happening in that one. EEBA, Vehicle Operation Safety, is a new policy. We've never had this. It's a recommended policy that the committee said, yep, let's bring it forward. New policy created at the request of member districts and specifically to include a clear provision related to the use of cell phones and other devices while driving. So please read through this. The policy committee said absolutely, yep, we need to have this, so we're bringing it to you guys. EHB, data records retention. Revisions included a specific definition of the meaning of record, using language better aligning to the definition of government record. IKL, academic honesty, integrity. It's optional, but we have this policy and the language change made really good sense. In the previous one, they just talked about AI, artificial intelligence. This specifies generative AI as the language current is accurate. So it has a distinction to it. So yeah, the language changes there. EHAG is also, it's a new policy for us, and this is in conjunction, thank you, with IKL, how the board wants the district to be using use of generative AI. So this is, we have language about AI in IKL, but this is specific to it, and the language was pretty comprehensive, we thought. So we would like the district to, the administration to be looking at that. This is a recommended policy, but the committee is saying, yeah, we should include it. Then we have JFABD, admission of homeless children and unaccompanied youth, priority required by law, includes specific language as requested by the New Hampshire Education Department and relating to requirements of McKinney-Vento Act, that the housing circumstances and living situation of a student protected under the Act is confidential information, may not be considered directory information under FERPA or any corresponding district policy. So this this clarifies more language, but also the McKinney-Vento administration should definitely take a look at this language to make sure that this is accurate for everyone. JLCD, administrating medication to students, again, priority required by law, relative to the authorization, training, use, and supplying self-administration of EpiPens in schools. So that should be looked at as well. But it's RSAs, it's laws, there's not much we can say about it. Okay? All right. There will be more to come, but these are the beginning ones. The policy committee I sent to Ruben, I think, 4 or 5 others that are priorities that we need to act on soon, but we really needed the administration to view first. So let me know if you need me to resend that email. But there was enough, these are all policies we currently have that we've worked very hard on, and there's some language changes and a literal position addition that needs to be looked at. So, yeah, so those will be coming soon. So please, when we say this is a first reading, this is your introduction to them, please read the full policy before you come back to our next meeting that we're going to be voting as a final at that meeting. Okay? Discussion. Any discussion on these so far? Yes, Judy.
Okay. I know I'm not the only person that had this problem, but I was not able to do the school district's fingerprinting test, where I have had my fingerprints done successfully at Department of Safety up in New Hampshire twice in the same time frame. I think the option to go to the Department of Safety and have the state police and a professional do it should be an option for those of us that are older and our fingerprints are worn off, because it not only was it kind of upsetting, but it's just a practical matter that I know I passed. I took the test for Department of Education for some, things to be qualified to teach if I went in that direction, and for my new job. So if we could have that as an option, that we pay for our tests with the professionals that do it every day, all day long, because there is an art to it, I can tell by having it done.
I'm looking at it right now and just seeing, I don't see anything in the policy, because what I'd like to do is approve the policy tonight, if the board is amenable.
Right, yeah, the
I don't
policy.
see anything in the
Okay.
IGCR about that,
Yeah,
which would
so
make
it
it so
says-
we can't approve it.
Okay,
Because I
well,
agree with you.
we won't, yeah, it just, I would have paid whatever the charge was just to have the person who knows how to do it and does it every day, multiple
Yeah,
times.
you're not the only one, and that's a huge frustration.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's,
Yeah,
I know I wasn't one of
Yeah,
them, yeah.
yeah, so this is for chaperones and stuff. All right, so no, there's nothing in IJOCR that would make it so that if we approve it tonight, we'd have to change it to do
Right,
that.
right, yeah.
So Ruben, could you please talk with the people doing the fingerprinting and seeing what needs to change so that we have more options than what we currently have. Okay? Thanks. All right, so then back to IGOCR. Anybody have an issue with extending the time to the end of September, the following school year would be the language? Okay, we'll take a motion to amend IGOCR to reflect that.
Motion to amend.
Hmm?
Motion to amend.
Great, thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandy. All right, so I think, yeah, so it's changing that language to, let me see the spot. All right, so under, if you go down a little bit more, great, and one more. Okay. Under volunteer service agreements on page 1 at the bottom, it says, all volunteers are required to complete an electronic service agreement each year. Volunteers serving in more than one school will be required to indicate each location on their service agreement. The approved volunteer period shall not exceed 1 school year. Let's change that to shall not exceed 1 school year plus the end of September following school year. I know it's weird language, but 1 school year plus the end of September, the following school year. Something like that. I'll let you guys figure it out. Okay. Wendy, you can get back to me on the language, but you have the intent. Great. All right. So we have a motion, we have this, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Deny, whatever? Okay, passes 6-0. Great, thank you. Policies always jumble me. Okay. Back to the agenda. We are at public comments too, and I'm hoping that there might be some people in the public that want to talk about HB 1300, but if that's okay if you want to just wait and see what comes down the pipe on that one, but I'd be happy to hear from the public on this one. All right, policy for the public is up on the board. Anybody want to jump in? Okay, anybody online? All right. People are waiting. All right, then we're going to go on to board matters. Our next meeting is August. The calendar's so hard on this thing. All right, I'm thinking August 6th, but I don't want to say it out loud yet until I get it adjusted. Okay, so
August 3rd. It's
August 3rd. Okay, our next meeting is August 3rd. And the board had agreed to make that a very brief, non-video, just a Facebook Live kind of a meeting, and deal with very brief business. We can bring back KFR for that meeting, because we'll hopefully have that public, have this community meeting before that. But I wanted to ask the board, I felt at our last work session, we had an extremely productive meeting. And I wanted to see how the board felt about, when we were in that meeting, we kind of veered away from the strategic plan document, which is perfectly fine. We had some good discussion. But I wondered how you would feel about focusing on fiscal goals. And I wondered how you would feel about really kind of just, especially in light of all the budget season coming, being able to just have that work session talk about what makes sense for us budget-wise and fiscal-wise, and what are our goals for how we want to go into the budget season. And I wondered if you're amenable to that focus, if we could invite the 2 current budget advisory people, Colleen Walters and John McCarthy, who have been approved by the selectmen of the towns to come, and just invite them, if they're available, to just be part of this brainstorming session with us, and really talk about what kind of you know, what we want to come before the public with, what we've been hearing from our constituents, what we've been concerned with ourselves, and what our goals could be going forward in light of a possible spending cap, but in light of all the cuts we've already had and how we want to grow as a district. Does that make sense to you guys to do it that way? So we'll keep it,
Sure.
you know, and so I'll send an invitation out to those two, and see if they will join us for that. So, great. All right. Christine, I don't actually have John McCarthy's personal email. I have Carlene's. Would you mind emailing John for that date? So we'll do that, okay? And we'll make it a very brief business meeting, probably half an hour. We'll talk about KFR briefly, but hopefully approve that. If we approve the waivers, whatever, we'll have language. All right? Cool. All right. Any other, oh yes, there are other board matters. Okay. All right. Okay. Christine, what I want to do is, Christine had emailed me, and I actually want to open up your email because the three things you said were valuable. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I was hoping that we could have someone from administration come and do a presentation on our test scores, the full test scores. I think the school board has seen some amazing test scores for the middle school, and they'd like to see all the test scores and make sure the community also gets to see those amazing test scores.
We'd have to wait till they are confirmed.
Yeah.
And then the embargo is taken off. Yep.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
can't go public until the department says we can go public.
All right, well, that's awesome, because I know that in the J or AO contract, you're supposed to give them a month notice, right? Is it a month? So I just wanted to make sure we had that. And also I wanted to hear an update on how the program of study might be changing based on all of our new hires. I think that was it. Oh, and any progress on bringing cosmetology CTE program to the district? So that's just thinking when people can schedule those presentations.
Thank you, Christine. Anybody else have anything for board matters?
No.
All right, and there was a finance facilities meeting today. Any information from that?
I wasn't there.
Basically, what Ruben covered in the superintendent's report was that, and we had more of a discussion on the bill and what we thought it meant in financials, but not much else.
Christine, can you talk about the education meeting?
We had a fantastic education committee meeting with Heather Lindstad presenting, and her presentation is online.
I was just looking it up too. Ruben, would you mind putting it on, like showing how to get to her presentation? I was
Sure.
literally just doing the same thing.
All right, so. All right, school board agenda minutes. We want committee agenda minutes, right?
I'm looking, yeah.
And education committee, that was on July 9th.
Yep.
So under minutes, which we figured the best way to do it was to just put the presentation on there, because it was a lengthy presentation.
It was an hour and a half.
Yep.
Just of her presentation.
Yeah.
She did phenomenal.
There's a lot of good information here.
So I can't recommend enough to the board members and to the public to please look through this. It was fantastic. Just the growth that we have, the numbers of students that we're serving each season, the hopes for new things that she wants to have. It was really neat.
One of the points that I wanted to share with the community is that one of the, we've heard questions about why we have for instance, a varsity swim team with only a few, participants in it, I think 3. And so what Heather has done is she has made a swimming club, which is the middle schoolers, and they practice with the swim team. So now you have, I think, 10 kids, and that they're actually sharing the pool, the Winchington Y pool, with Messinic to cut costs. So it's all these steps that are in place to keep the cost down as much as possible while keeping the participation levels as high as possible.
And some of the clubs, like as Ruben is slowly going through, which thank you, some of the clubs you would see, okay, there's 5 kids here, there's 4 kids here. You notice the middle school and the high school are separated out on different slides, and many of those are actually combined. So it might say middle school robotics and high school robotics. Those are the same class taught by this one teacher. So it's not separate clubs of smaller groups. Many of the high school and middle school are completely, because we have a cohesive program, they do those together. So it's pretty cool.
She also talked about how beneficial it would be to have some small buses or vans for these smaller programs instead of paying for the large bus. If we had some of our own, then we could actually even use them when we're sending our kids, our learners, over to Keene or to Messinic for CTE programming. So the vans would be busy during the day, and then at the end of the day, they could be taking a small team to a wrestling competition or a volleyball meet or something like that.
I think that's something that should be looked into. I think it could be a good cost savings personally.
Yep, that's what she's talking about.
And the coaches could be driving them instead of paying the
Yeah.
bus company
No, I
drivers.
think it would be a great idea to put some energy into that a little bit.
Yeah. And I knew I had notes here too. Asking for, or what I said, okay, give me what you really want. And 2 15-passenger vans that could be used for CTE as well. We spent so much money shipping the kids to Keene. It was very expensive. So-
Keene, Conval,
Keene,
and
Milford.
Milford. I don't know if we sent a bus over to Milford, but we also had one go to Alvern, in Hudson. So we,
So it could be
yeah.
dual purpose, throughout the
I
day.
think we spend a lot more on busing than we need to. I think we can
Yeah.
Yeah.
somehow work that down somewhat, I think.
There's a bus that comes down all the way down my street, probably an extra 2 miles every day to pick up one student, and it's like an
She
entire
felt,
bus.
she felt 2 15-passengers would do the job, if that's, money could be found. Another thing that was just an interesting thing to note, the NHIAA, who is, the varsity, junior varsity, they are going to include middle school for 27, 28. So that was kind of exciting that we already have middle school, very active people in place to be able to accommodate some higher level.
Out of curiosity, now I know Ringe has they have a smaller bus. Would there be any possibility that they may be able to participate in like renting the bus for a lot less than what we're paying to do it?
I think we
At
do
certain
that with
occasions, I don't know.
Yeah.
We do that with Jaffrey. So these are just round figures, and they might be different for the upcoming year. They're going to be higher for the upcoming year, I'm sure. But basically, I think we did I spent some time with David and with Heather prior to making some of the cuts to this last go around, and looking on average how much it costs per trip for an athletic team. And it was $500 per trip. So every bus, because you also, some of them are short, so it's a couple hours and you're paying for the individual to stay there, but some of them are 6-7 hours, depending on if you're going down to the Beach or something like that, in that area of the state, that's southern New Hampshire, southeastern New Hampshire. So, what she has done successfully is work with the Jaffrey Recreation, because I don't know if they use their van quite as often. The Ringe Rec does use their vehicle quite a bit, but we are able to rent that for a much more affordable rate. I think $125, $150. So you're talking about $400 off each time you use that, instead of going with the large bus with the bus driver.
Yeah, I mean, if you're serving the same purpose and you're saving money, it's not hurting us at all. If we
And
can,
then when you consider that if, for one bus route for a CTE per year is about $45,000. Some of that money we can get reimbursed by the state, but not a lot. And but that's a lot of money. So how do you might we be able to do it differently?
And
That's
the-
per run.
yeah.
And one of the other outcomes from the meeting, kind of, not really requests, but things that she would like the board to talk about, is using the live stream that we do for fundraising. And because there's ways of doing advertising through a program called Play On Livestream, and we could advertise the live stream and fundraise, and we'd have to check with our policy and see what we want to do, but this seems like a really reasonable way of getting some larger corporations to be able to help us fund some of our stuff. And so what we actually need, as we talk about this, is we actually need a fundraising committee. We need some people to actually look at. She had a bunch of ideas. What's on the screen right now, PlayOn is I think what we're using now for live streaming, but she's seen other people using it to have corporate fundraising with it. And so we have things in place now that we could start doing that. But we actually need to have an updated policy that can accommodate safe fundraising. But we need a fundraising team to talk about things like using these different programmings, different from a booster club. Like a booster club, great, let's do that. But let's get a committee of people to say, this is our fundraising goal, right? So it's not just throwing things out there to see what's going to stick. Let's do this responsibly, because we're talking about kids. So let's make sure we're responsible in how we move forward with this. So what I would love to do is, first of all, put out to the community and to the board, is anybody here interested in being a part of a fundraising group? But also, yeah, so thank you for finding that one, that screen. So does the board, first of all, have any ideas about how to start something like that, how to do a group? What would you recommend us moving into this realm? Because we want to act on it pretty quickly. We have a great sports season lined up.
Well, I think there's a lot of little things like, just looking at briefly here, of course there's poles in my way, but the fence banners is a great idea. It's something you do, and you can raise probably some decent money with it, We could get our own vans and paint them with different things,
Yeah.
I'm
That'd be
just using
great.
different things.
Let's get 2 15-passenger vans and cover it.
Yeah, we'll cover them right up, Need a lawyer?
Okay, yeah, no, we're not doing that. All right, so how do you guys feel about a fundraising committee? Step away from the idea that you don't want to be on it. How do you feel about having a fundraising committee? Do you feel like this is something worth our time to invest in?
I'm not really too big on car washes or bake sales. I don't think they raise enough money, but that's just my
I
own
think we're
opinion.
talking bigger. Those are things that our groups do now.
Yeah.
So we have lots of groups doing that
Yeah,
now.
no, somebody can do
And they
them.
make money.
Yeah.
But I think what we're talking about is real commercial work.
Yeah.
I think it's something we've been hearing from our community, that we need to look responsibly at new sources of revenue, and that we also need to, we've heard from businesses that they want to donate and they want to be more involved, and so I personally believe that this could help meet both of those goals, raising revenue and encouraging businesses, community members
Mhm.
to become involved. So, I don't know a professional fundraiser, but I bet somebody does who could guide us and help us set something up.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I like the turkey trot, because in Andover, I used to always do the Feast for Five, and there's something about having to do something challenging and athletic on Thanksgiving morning, and then you go and you can just have anything you want to eat. So I do like that.
Yeah, scroll down just a hint more. This was pretty cool, because the Shattuck Golf Course, I think, reached out to Heather and said, look, we'd love to partner with you to do some bigger ticket items, and these were just some ideas, and so, yeah, it was just great. So how about if we start with our next policy meeting? We'll look at the policy. If the board is, I'm going to ask for a vote in a minute, if the board is amenable to reopening the policy for this to accommodate commercial fundraising. Is that something the board is amenable to?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a motion to reopen the policies on fundraising to more commercial ventures. Go ahead, somebody make a motion.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Christine. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And I'll get I forget what the policy number is. I'll get that to you. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. So at our next policy meeting, we'll make this a priority to look at what would need to change to make sure we can accommodate online fundraising. We'll look at the fence banners and the visuals, and just make sure we're keeping as safe as possible with students. Okay, good. I would like to also ask for a motion to pursue what costs, what liabilities, what it would take to get to 15-passenger vans. And I'd like the board to authorize the superintendent to pursue what that would look like. We're not spending the money right now.
I missed that. To get what?
Yep. So, I saw pretty much all board members say, yes, we'll save money if we could get passenger vans. So let's make a formal board vote to ask the superintendent to look at what that could be, what the cost would be, what the liability would be, what would that look like if we got district-wide passenger vans.
We should be able to get that pretty quickly, Ruben, from the Jaffrey Rec Department, because they just got a new van. And we have the insurance through Primex. The only thing I'm questioning is if they need a CDL to drive the van.
Not if it's 15 passenger or less.
Okay, good.
And the only other thing is we can't drive it from home to school. It has, like, the kids have to have come here first,
Right.
and then we can transport after that.
So that's cool, I didn't know that. I mean, it makes really good sense, but
Yeah,
I didn't,
yeah.
okay. All right, because this is different from a school bus, this is different
Yes,
from a.
yes, yeah.
Okay, so is that, so the board is not saying we're gonna get vans right now. The board is simply saying, as
Look
an
into it.
act, that we
Yeah.
would like the superintendent to look into this. Okay, all right,
Mhm.
so anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Sandy, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 600. Thank you, guys. All right. Cool. Yeah, please, so again, just a quick review, that was on, if you look at school board committee minutes, then go to education, July 9th. That's where you find this presentation. I hope everybody takes a look at it. There's some incredible work being done with our athletics and activities, just incredible.
There is one question that I did not, I'm not sure. I asked Heather or maybe I spaced the answer, but I believe when we were talking about the cuts to meet the default budget, we said there would be no JV sports. Is that still the plan?
I think that it was more about
Transportation.
the transportation with that, changing the schedules, what it would look like. It may not look the same as what, we might play more local teams, that sort of thing. There are some sports that we have that we don't have JVs anyhow, so that doesn't affect several of them, actually. But it's limited. I know that I am meeting with David, Heather, and Carrie, either, was it later on this week, or is it next week? One of those, I have it on the calendar. It's within the next 2 weeks, anyway, to go over and make sure that we have everything
Okay.
just right. But we're not, we're gonna make sure that kids have the opportunity to play.
That was a question
It
that.
just is likely to look different. And varsity are likely to play fewer games.
Mhm. When I'm driving people around, I ask them, what do you want me to ask Heather before the meeting? And that was will we have sports? Will there be JV? That was a big question.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I have a question. When does the year that just ended, the school year, when does that close out so that we know where we stand?
Yeah, so we talked about that at the Facilities Finance Committee, and Carrie gave an update. I'm about to say something, you may want to fill in the holes, but we discussed that with, I would say, unanticipated revenue. And when I say unanticipated revenue, I'm not talking about unanticipated like sources of revenue, more revenue in certain areas than we expected to get back. We've talked about this a little bit, and a few $100,000 to the good of the district. Plus, we had a couple $100,000 remaining after the school year when all is said and done. We've had cash flow challenges, and we discussed that as well, and how we were fortunate to have, at the end of the year, been able to get an advance from the trustees to be able to pay for some of the work that we were going to do, so that we had the cash flow. That was helpful. And all those projects are going well. It's not finalized because we have some work that we still have to do with food service, and just making sure that we're tracking down any invoices that just might be out there. I don't know if we have any out there. We don't think so. Maybe one, but we still like to double check, triple check, because once it's closed, we want, it needs to be closed. So Carrie, do you want to add anything? I think that the amount that the board is likely to be able to choose to retain is in the $650,000 to $750,000 range. Of course, we have to see what happens with food service, yeah.
Now, the other question I had is, when do we kind of know roughly what our enrollment will be for this coming year?
We always use October 1, those numbers, as the enrollment.
So going into the beginning of the year, we don't really know.
I will email the board within the first week of the school year to tell you what the first day or the first couple day
Do we
census is.
anticipate it to be up or down?
I would imagine that it will be up in some areas, down in others, for a total of either staying the same or a little bit down. The NESDEC charts that we have would indicate going down for next year. But I think also we've had a fair number of individuals move away. Now, the question is whether people moved in who have kids to replace, yeah.
Well, the high school graduation had 68 kids go out, but the eighth grade coming up has 83 coming in.
Mhm.
So the high school's certainly going to be,
I think, and it would seem like our kindergarten numbers are in okay shape. So, we have there's always years where you have bubble years where they're a lot larger, and then some that were, smaller. Like, for instance, actually, this year, JGS, the fifth grade was a lot larger. Usually it's the reverse, and Ringe was smaller. So it tends to go the opposite direction, but last year it all evened out. They just went, the opposite schools.
I was really pleased to see the recent news articles on the two major apartment complexes going into Jaffrey. And soon using up some buildings that are not in use, and that's going to be nice. That made a huge difference in other towns near us. We're just having some good workforce housing, affordable housing. Yeah, that's what brings the families in. So. All right. Any other board matters? You all good? Cool. All right. Then we will at 8:02.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Do we need a non-public?
I have an item for non-public. If you'd like, it would take about 2 minutes.
Yeah, let's do a quick non-public. So we can't, so Sandy, you motioned, JB, you seconded? Okay, we're not going to vote on that yet. We will do that after. So we'll take a motion to go into non-public
For personnel?
for personnel.
I'll make that
Somebody-
motion.
Christine, thank you. Anybody second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sandy. So that needs to be a roll call vote. Jared?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes?
Christine?
Yep.
Yes.
Dan says yes. I say aye. So